Hello, my fellow YouTube people. I hope you're doing very, very well on this fine Wednesday evening or whatever day and time it is for you right now as you're watching this. As per usual, I'm here, Azren the Language Nerd, and I'm making a phone video here, a video using my phone, which I have not done in quite some time, primarily because with these phone videos, I have found that they will sometimes be a little bit too shaky and unstable for my liking. However, I recently bought a new phone about a month ago. I got the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. And so I want to test it out today, and I want to see if this camera here is as shaky as my old phone, and if it's going to be practical for me to use my phone to record videos if I am on the go. So let me know in the comments below what you thought. Was it too shaky for you? Was it okay? Let me know. The feedback would be appreciated. Now, I want to talk about the following today, which is translation, and more specifically translation when it comes to language learning and using translation as a language learning tool. A lot of people in language learning circles have some negative views or not so positive views towards using translation as a language learning tool. The primary argument you tend to hear is that if you are translating everything you hear in your target language into your mother language, your mother tongue, the problem is you're going to struggle with listening comprehension. In other words, if I'm saying to you, I want to eat food, and you're trying to translate that into your mother tongue of Russian or Spanish or whatever, it's going to take you too long to translate that word per word and learn and try to understand it by translation. It's just too slow, and you're not going to be able to follow natural speed conversations. The other argument people have as well is that if you are translating in your mind to communicate something in another language, the other argument is that it's also very slow and you're not going to be able to communicate very naturally because you're so busy thinking in your head, I want to go for a walk. Yo quiero ir. Like, it's just so slow and you're not going to be able to sound natural either. So that's kind of the main arguments that people have against translation. But here's the thing, I want to throw a bone, I want to throw a wrench in this whole situation, because in my personal experience, I have used translation tremendously well to help me in lots of different situations. Most notably, or most recently, in Spanish. I currently speak Spanish very, very well. I speak very fluently. I feel very comfortable in Spanish, both in speaking and listening, but also reading and writing. But I'll be honest with you, just like anyone who speaks a language fluently, native speakers are obviously going to be a little bit more comfortable. That's just kind of how it is, right? And what's interesting is that lately I have been working with someone from Colombia. We've been working together. I've been teaching her whole family English, and there's been a lot more Spanish happening on a day-to-day basis with native speakers than I have in recent history. And so there have been many situations I have been encountering where, maybe I've never had to use Spanish in that context before. I've never really had to do it before. I've never had to use that register Spanish or this types of vocabulary, blah, 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 blah. And initially I used to struggle. I used to get stuck. I was like, man, how do I communicate? How do I do this? But what's helped me tremendously in the past little while has been quite simply thinking about what I would say in English and then translating that into Spanish. Because here's the thing, myself, when I think in Spanish, the words don't always come to mind. I can't quite find the words of what I'd like to say. But if I go to English first, that can help me find some words and help me get started with the sentence or sentences or phrases that I want to use. So a lot of people, again, translation, they're saying it's bad. And yes, in some circumstances, it's not great. You can't always be translating, but there is a time and place. It is something. In my personal experience, this is me. I've been finding tremendously that it helps me. It helps me a lot, especially when I'm in unfamiliar territory. If I had to outline it as a bit of a formula or as a process that language learners can follow, it would look something like this. First of all, when you are in a circumstance or a situation that you've never really encountered, or maybe you have the words to navigate that situation, but you've never actually done it before in real life. When you're in that type of situation, the first few times it might not hurt to translate from your mother tongue, because it's just going to help you find the right words and hopefully fumble your way through and kind of get through that situation. But here's the thing, it can't be something you do every time. You can't every time stop and translate and use translation as your tool. You can't do it all the time. A great example is earlier this week, I had a meeting with the Colombian lady that I've been working with. And it was a very different kind of meeting. It was a meeting, for crying out loud. I've never really done meetings in Spanish, and I was leading the meeting. So I'm capable, but it's not something I have a lot of experience with. So what I was doing is, there would be times where I would pause. I would say, wait, let me think about it. I would think about it in English. I would translate to Spanish, and that would help me. But then the next time I need to say something similar, I would challenge myself to just use the words and use some of the phrases that I've already done. And so I've been working on this and practicing with this for the past little while, so much so that lately I've been finding that in these types of situations, I don't need to translate anymore. My brain has figured it out. I figured out the patterns, and I've kind of gotten to the bottom of it. So ultimately, to wrap this whole video up, to wrap this conversation up, translation as a general whole, yes, it will slow you down. If that's what you're always relying on, yeah, it's not, I don't know if it's going to be the greatest thing for you. And you've got to make other connections to the language aside from translation. However, if you are using translation as a tool and you are very aware that you can't always rely on it, and you're using it just as a tool, one simple tool to make some connections, additional connections to your target language, and you are mindful to do other things as well to make other connections to the language, and you are doing blah, 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 and you're really being mindful that you're not going to be translating all the time, and it's just something you use from now and then, sparingly, blah, 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 blah. I think that is not necessarily, in my personal experience, that is not necessarily like a bad, whoa, sorry about that. Something weird came on my phone. There we go. Not necessarily a bad thing. So anyway, let's wrap this video up here. I appreciate it. Again, if this video was way too shaky for you, or you're like, it was hard to focus or whatever, please let me know in the comments. If it was okay for you and you're like, oh yeah, if Azren made more videos off his phone like this was a good stability, it wasn't super wobbly, things like that, please let me know that as well in the comments below. Anyway, thanks again. I appreciate it. We will talk later. Bye for now. See you.